Hey, welcome on board. My name is Christian, and in this online course, we are going to explore Blender for game development. Blender is a full-featured 3D app. It is free to use and open source. It also comes with tons of free and paid plugins that we can use to slightly enhance our workflows. It's also highly customizable because it comes with Python, and then that means we can create our own tools. This course was designed for game studios and industry veterans who are looking for a fast way to switch from 3ds Max or Modo to Blender. It's also designed for newcomers or modders who just want to learn how to create game assets for their favorite games. And it's important to understand that during the past 20 years, 3ds Max and Maya used to be the industry standard tools. That changed as Blender in recent years got better. Now, it's more a question of how can game studios leverage Blender to the max? How can we integrate Blender partially or fully into our production pipeline to make the most of it? This is Module 1. We're going to see the fundamentals of Blender for game development. In this first chapter, we're going to get started with Blender. We'll see how to manage scenes, how to customize your preferences, and how to navigate in Blender before we get to the cool stuff. So let's launch Blender for a first time. Hey, we have our classic splash screen. We see the version number here. To close this, left click inside of Viewport, and there we go. Like any Windows app, top left corner, we have different options. So we have File, Edit, Render, Window, Help. Let's start with File. Click File. Here we have an option to create a new scene. And notice if I already have something here, and I click File, New, General, it's going to ask me, hey, you want to create a new scene, but do you want to save this one? I'll be like, no, don't save. And notice it does not create a new window. We're still in the same one. If instead of creating something new, I want to open something that I already worked on, click on open, I go here and I can select on my PC anything that I want. Let's say I want this one. There you go. If you want to select something that you recently worked on, you can use open recent and you'll see everything that you worked on recently. Save is you're working a file and you want to save this file under this same name. Save as is you want to save this but under a different name. And save incremental is quite useful. If I'm currently working on this and I hit save incremental, it's going to add 1, 2, 3, 4 and so forth. Super cool. When you're working with 3D files in general, there are different formats. If you're working with ZBrush, you might have to save with OBJ, which is right here. If you're doing some 3D printing, maybe you're using STL. In most cases, when we're working with game engines, we're mostly working with FBX. There are nuances there. If you're working with Godot, and you're working back and forth between Godot and Blender for various reasons, you might be using GLTF 2.0 instead. So keep that in mind. Import means you take a file from outside and bring it in. And export, you're working on something and you just want to export it to the game engine. Default, if you don't like your startup file, you can create a new one here. And if you want to reset Blender to its factory settings, you can do this from here. There's another way to do it. Edit, Preferences, the bottom left, you have an option, and you have Load Factory Settings. If you do this, you do load, and you need to save the preferences. And reboot Blender is going to take effect. So, because this online course is heavily focused on game asset creation, I will make you change one important thing in Blender. Let's click on Edit, Preferences, and under Key Map, you will find spacebar action. By default, it should be set to play. We are going to change it to Tools. So let's click on Tools and let's close this window. Notice in my viewport on the left, I have a list of operations. Well, if I move my mouse to the right and I hit spacebar, a contextual menu is going to appear. Those are the same options that I have on the left, but because this contextual menu appeared under my mouse, it makes it easier for me to click on those buttons with my mouse right away. Plus, it gives me hotkeys for each one of those. That makes Blender a lot easier and faster to learn. Hey, let's get started with navigation in Blender. Make sure that you're using the Layout tab, you're in Object mode, and we are going to add a cube. Boom! Let's click in the viewport, unselect it. How do we move the camera around? That's fairly simple. You have the mouse wheel button, click and hold it down. You can move the mouse around to rotate. If you want to snap your camera to every axis around, you hold down left alt while you rotate. And it's going to snap to each axis. You can also do it top and bottom. Very useful. To switch between the different perspectives is right here. Or you can hit numpad 5 to switch between orthographic and perspective. If you want to just pan the camera, you hold down left shift, hit and hold down M3, the mouse wheel button. In order to zoom in and out, mouse wheel button up and down. If you want something smoother, you hold down left control. You press and hold down mouse wheel button and you can zoom in and out. Very cool. Also, another way to zoom on an object is right here. We have frame selected on numpad dot and frame all on the home. That means if I'm really far, I can click on my object and hit home, or I could hit numpad dot. And there are a few more navigation settings in Blender that I cannot live without, and let me show them to you. Let's click on Edit, Preferences, Navigation, and in here we are going to find Orbit Around Selection. That means if I click on an object right now, by default, if I try to rotate, I'm off. It's not rotating around it. To fix this, I can turn this on, and then it's going to rotate around whatever I'm clicking on. Very cool, very useful. Also, intuitively, maybe you're going to try to put your cursor on an object, try to zoom on it, and you realize it actually doesn't work. It can be annoying. Coming from other apps, maybe you expect it to work this way. To fix this, you can go here, zoom to mouse position, turn this on, and now it's going to zoom wherever I'm putting my cursor on. So, very cool. Also, you have depth. What this does is, let's say I'm clicking on this one and I try to zoom on it. You'll see it's limited here. If you want to go through it, you can click on depth, add it, and then you should be able to go into it, in and out. So, awesome. In the next chapter, we are going to take a deep dive into the fundamentals of the Layout tab in Object mode, meaning we're going to explore geometry primitives, how we can create an object, how we can create a copy, create an instance, how to take two objects, merge them together, pick the separate parts, separate them back. We're going to take a look, of course, at the selection tools such as tweak, select box, select circle, select lasso. We are also going to take a look at the main 3D operations such as move, rotate, scale, scale cage, transform. We are also going to take a look at the annotation tools and the measurement tools. So it's going to be a full, complete overview of those fundamentals before we even think about getting into modeling. How do we create objects in Blender? Usually when you're modeling, you want to start with basic shapes that you're going to be easily able to modify afterwards. So the way to do it, add mesh, and you have multiple options. Here, let me show them to you. They look like this. So you can have a cube, a plane, circle, sphere, ecosphere, you have cylinder, cone, torus, and here, super cute monkey, right? Quick introduction to the selection tools in Blender. We can find them on the far left. Let's open this. You have the tweak tool, but this is a drop-down menu with several other tools. So let's start with tweak. It's just there to move things around. It's very simple. The select box is a classic. It's just like File Explorer or Windows. It creates a rectangle and you can select one or multiple objects. To unselect, hold down left control and do it again and you will unselect the selection. Select circle, there's a radius to it. Could be bigger, could be smaller, but all it does is select things by painting. So you click all down and move over the object that you want to select. Just make sure that you're passing over the center, and same thing to unselect, hold down left control, pass over it, and that's it. Select lasso is a bit different. It's very practical because you can both circle around things, plus you have this straight line. So it's very, very useful if you have a lot of objects, you need to move between them or vertices. And now to unselect, just hold down control and it's like the other one. Oh, very nice. Hey, let's explore the move tool for a moment. See here the move tool, let's click on this and let's click on an object. See, the gizmo, the move tool appears. And notice if I click on another object in transfer, so the logic is I'm in this mode where I want to move any object that I want. Now, how does this work? Well, that's interesting. You have this white circle. Let's click and hold it and move it around. This is going to move the object based on my current perspective, my point of view. If you want to move on the axes, you need to use the colored arrows. So you have the green, the blue, and the red. If you want to move the object on two axes at once, you use the square ones, like this. And you have the blue one, so depending on your need. There's also another way to do this is if you click and hold down on the white circle, you can use the mouse 3. So mouse wheel button to actually snap on any axis that you want. And this is probably the fastest way to move things. You're going to see people use this all the time. Also, when you're moving an object, if you want to be more precise, you can hold down shift, left shift, and you can move it slower. To do it incrementally, it's left control. I can even combine both. So let's say I move with left shift, slow, and then I use left control. You can also do it slow, but incrementally as well. Okay, let's now explore the rotate tool. Let's click on rotate. Let's click on the object. The white circle is for our perspective. The colored circles is for each axis. If you want to do it slow, you hit shift and you hold it down, you move. If you want to do it incrementally, it's left control. If you want to snap to every axis, you can start like this and use M3, the mouse wheel button. Just cool. Another way is if you place your cursor here. See, there's like a sphere that appears. Well, if you click in the emptiness of it, it allows you like to grab the object and move it around with your hand almost. That's very interesting. I rarely use it, but if you find something useful to it, use it. Let's now explore the scale tool. So let's click on scale, click on our object. Here's the gizmo for the scale. But before we move any further, let's go on the right side and let's find object properties. Let's click on this. You'll see you have different properties here, and the scale properties are right here. So my object, there's a white circle. This is for uniform scale. Notice all axes are changing at once. If I use the arrows, those are like one axis at a time. You can see it on there. If you want to do it slowly, same thing. You hold on left shift, it's slow. If you want to do it incrementally, left control, great. But I want you to notice something here. The scale of my object is changed, and let me show you something. I'm going to leave object to go to edit, and I'm going to make sure that I am using edge mode. We're going to see that later, but let me select all my edges and let me do a bevel. If I do a bevel, notice this is deformed. This is not proportionate. The reason it is deformed is because my scale is deforming my object, and I've never committed those changes. So let me commit those changes. You need to go back to object mode. On object, you have apply. I want to apply all transforms. Boom. Okay, it's done. And let me show you what it does. I go back here, I select all my edges, and I do the bevel again. The bevel is different. Now it is uniform, it's proportionate. So it's very important to understand this. Under scale, we have scale cage. So right here, you see the white triangle. You can click on this because this is a drop-down menu. You can select scale cage and we can click on our object. It's going to create a cage all around it that is white. Plus you see all the white dots. Those are what we're going to use to scale the object. So if we want to expand the width of the weapon, we're going to take the one on the side right here and expand it. If I would want to increase the height, I could either take the one at the top or the one at the bottom, which is one way to do it. Notice at the tip or the rear on the side, if I want to move in two directions, I could use those. So we don't really see it here. Let me expand this. So I can expand both the width and make the weapon longer. But if I use instead a corner, you see there are three edges there, so three directions. I can move it in three directions. So different ways to modify your object. Just find the context that you're in and find what is the best tool for the job. It's almost time to explore the transform tool, but before we do, I need to remind you that we've seen the move tool, the rotate tool, the scale, and the transform tool is just a combination of all those three. So you can move, you can rotate, and you can scale all in one. Time to explore the Annotate tool. So right here we have Annotate, we have line, polygon, eraser. Annotate is like a pen. The line allows me to draw lines. The polygon is drawing lines between clicks, and you hit spacebar to make it stop. Eraser is to erase the lines that you just drew on screen. If I go back to Annotate, notice we have placement. Placement, there's 3D cursor, view, and surface. We have three types. Let's choose the first one. To place your 3D cursor, you need to hold down left shift and right click on screen anywhere. I usually use two steps. If I want 3D cursor in this area at the back, I would place it here. I would move my camera and I would place it more at the back. And if I write something here, notice if I turn my camera, it's using the 3D cursor to place the drawing. And clearly the angle of this comes from my camera projection, meaning if I go way up here and I write Earth and I turn, you notice the angle of it comes from my projection. So there are two things. View is very, very different. It's more like writing right on top of the TV. See? It follows my screen. It's very interesting if you think about it. And what about surface? This one is a bit tricky because let me place my 3D cursor. Okay, this is a good spot for me right here for this demonstration. Let's draw a line above, under, and in the middle. And let's turn the camera to see the result. See? Where I had no surface, it went to the 3D cursor. And where I had surface, it's trying to match what it sees. It's basically the cube. So I could like draw from outside, come here. Now it's on the cube. It's going to continue to draw on the cube, the surface. But when I leave, it goes straight there. Meaning I can come back. Okay? See how it behaves? So I could do like a flower here. And you'll notice it's going to follow. It's very interesting. There's another app named 3D Code that kind of works like this for certain brushes, and it really allows you to be more creative in 3D. So there's some use cases for this. If you want to change color, you go right here. See annotation, those are layers. Meaning I'm using the blue one. I can add and change the color. Maybe we want green. Maybe I want some kind of red. And let's try to erase this for a moment. So let's switch to erase. See, it's not erasing anything except the red one simply because the last layer I selected is red. If I want to erase blue, I need to switch to blue, move to erase, and decide to erase blue.
Okay, if you don't want to waste your time doing this, you just want to erase everything, you can just delete the layers and they're all gone. Okay, time to explore the measurement tool. So it's located right here. So let's click on measure, and for this demonstration, I'm going to turn on snapping and set snap base to center, snap target to vertex. So click and drag to create a line. I can do it for the width as well, not just the height. And if I want to delete this line, I need to grab it. I can hit delete, or I could also hit X. It's also possible to click in the middle of the line to measure the angle. It's also possible kind of to, let's say, use left shift to measure the thickness of a wall. Nice. Let me show you a really cool tool in Blender. It's the add geometry primitive. Here we have add cube, cone, cylinder, UV sphere, icosphere. Notice here with the cube, wherever I place my mouse cursor, it tells me I can create a shape. So I can drag and drop and create a cube out of nowhere. It's very nice. If I do this and I hold down left shift, it allows me to do a uniform scale, which is very useful. If, let's say, I'm creating a bridge and I really need to get it to here, I can use left control and snap to it. And let's say I want the same height, hold down left control again, and you can do that. It's very nice. So if I want to create a cube here that needs to be the same height as this, hold down left control, and there you go. Very practical. I just like this tool. Hey, are you ready for a little bonus here? I'm going to create a new object, a copy of it, and I'll show you what instances are and how we can make them in Blender. So let's go here, click add mesh cube, and then we're going to right click on it, and you'll find duplicate objects with shift D or duplicate linked with alt D. Let's try the first one, and let's go back. Let's create duplicate linked, do it a second time, and this is just a boring copy, nothing exciting there. Now this is the original mesh. Let's modify it, and let me select this edge, let me bevel it, and you'll see the changes also affect the two instances, but that's also true the other way around. So if I modify the last one and I do the same, you'll notice it changes the instance plus the original mesh. So all linked objects will be affected by the change, and this is excellent for mass production. But there's something that we need to understand here. Let me grab the first original mesh. I could select the instance, doesn't matter, but now I'm going to scale it, which is happening at the object mode level. Let me scale it. It does not affect the other objects because every object can be scaled independently. So that's something to keep in mind. In the previous example, we have seen how we can create an object in Blender, how we can create a copy and an instance. In this example, we're going to take a look at how we can combine multiple objects together, how we can then go into edit mode and select only specific faces of one sub-object, and how we can separate them again. So let's take a look. I have here two cubes. To select both, I can select one and then hold on left shift, select the second one. Or I could just use select box, select both, or even do lasso, select both again. Now to join them, I can right click and click on join. Now both are merged, they're one and the same. If I just want to select one of those, now let's say I want to move them around, I need to switch from object mode to edit mode. And then I need to select the face of one of them, the one that I want, let's say the small one. I select the face, and then I can do Control L to select all linked parts. And then I can move it independently. I can do it for this one as well, Control L, and move it as well. And this is how I would be able to then separate them again. So let me select all of those, Control L. I can go back to Mesh, Separate, Selection, and now they're both separated. I can use the hide button to find which one is what. So this is the big cube, and this is my small cube. There you go.
And in this next chapter, we are going to cover snapping. In this next chapter, we're going to cover the snapping tools in Blender. And because this can be quite a complex topic, we're going to streamline it and simplify it. Right here at the top of the screen, you have transform pivot. Just make sure it's on individual origins for this example. Snapping is right here, so the magnet icon, click on this to turn on snapping. Click on it again to turn it off. Alternatively, you can use left shift, hold it down, and then hit tab on the keyboard to turn on snapping. The snap settings are located right here on the right. Let's open this menu. You will find snap base, snap target, and at the bottom, effect. Effect is currently set to move, meaning we're only affecting the move tool, which is perfect for this current example. At the top, snap base, that is currently set to closest, we're going to move it to center, and we're going to make sure that snap target is currently set to the first one, increment. And notice that increment and grid are very similar. Increment means off the grid, grid means snapping to the grid. So increment, what does it do? We're going to select move and let's start moving it. See, it's moving by increment, and you can see that the spacing follows the spacing of the grid itself, the floor grid. We can do it in any direction, and if you use G directly or use a white circle and try to move it in 3D, you can use M3 to control the movement on any axis that you want. I really do not recommend using this freely like this because it's going to go anywhere. It's really not meant for this. If you want more precision, you can always move the camera around and use left alt to snap to a different perspective. This might help you manage the grid. Also, there's another setting in here, absolute increment snap. This is going to make this look very much like grid, and you'll see what I mean. Let's check this on. Boom. This is what it does. It snaps wherever the lines intersect, and that acts very much like the grid. The difference with the grid is that this one really snaps to what you see. So what you see is what you get, which is very nice. Most of the time, I'm going to use the grid. And you might be wondering, how can I influence the scaling of the grid, the spacing? How can I make it greater or lesser? It's right here. So you have scene properties, and in there you have units, and here we have unit scale that you can increase or decrease to your liking. There's another area where you can do this. It's right here, overlays, viewport overlays, and you have scale. So we can increase or decrease. To reset to default, right click and hit reset. Just very nice. Now let's explore the more interesting settings. Vertex. This is going to allow us to snap to all the vertices in my scene. This is very cool, super practical, and you're going to use this all the time. The other one is edge. This is a bit different. Instead of snapping to the vertices, it's going to snap to the edges, and you can slide it like this. It's very cool, very useful. Face is a lot of fun. It's multi-purposes. You can do a lot with it. Currently, it looks good because I have a cube that has a large volume, but as soon as I take this one out and I use something else more tricky, like this plane, it's going to look bad. Because right now the plane is not matching the surface because it's not rotating, and we can fix this by opening the menu and you will find align rotation to target. Let's check this box and see how it changes the behavior. And now it's snapping to the surface, and let me give you a proper example of why this would be useful. Right here I have this beautiful sphere. I'm going to copy this object and try to place it on my sphere. And you'll notice at first it looks good, but when you really look carefully, this looks really terrible. And this is something to think about. If this is like irregular terrain and you're placing houses, you need to modify the base. So let's look at the other example right here. I modified the base, so the base is longer. And now if I try to place this one,
it's going to look a lot better. It doesn't matter where I place it, because now this gives me enough room to make it look good from far. It doesn't stick out, right? This was a good lesson. Volume, what does this do? Let's forget about the plane. Let's use back the cube. It's just going to try to snap to the volume, but this is a bit weird because it's hard to control. It's not very precise, and I personally would never use it. Edge center works exactly as what you would expect. It snaps to the center of the edges. Great. Well, I hope you had fun with the snapping tools. In our next chapter, we are going to explore the 3D cursor, which is a powerful tool in Blender that has many purposes, but it can be quite technical, confusing, or overwhelming at first. So this is the kind of thing that you need to get your hands on and practice a bit to get used to it. But once you have a good understanding of it, sky's the limit. You'll be very comfortable in Blender to do many things. So what is a 3D cursor? It's that little thing right here. You can also find it in the menu right here on the left. Cursor, to place it, you left click anywhere, or alternatively can hold on left shift and right click in the viewport. So this is useful if let's say you're using the move tool and you want to move it, you can just left shift and boom, it's there. Very cool. If you do not see it on screen right now, make sure that viewport overlays and 3D cursor, that this is checked. Otherwise you won't see it. Okay. And when we use a 3D cursor, there's one pie menu that we are going to use all the time. Is this one. Use left shift, hold it down, and hit S on the keyboard. Boom. So right here we have many options. I'm not going to read them all, but you'll have to get used to this pie menu. It's very powerful. Hit escape to close it. One of the first things we can do with the pie menu in the 3D cursor is to place our 3D cursor anywhere in the world and tell Blender, hey, this selection, I want to move it to my cursor. Boom. And we can also do the opposite. We can send our 3D cursor to the location of our object. Let's select the object and then open the pie menu. At the bottom, cursor to selected. And when we work on game assets, it's super important for us to have full control, not only over the object, but also its origin point. In this case, the origin point of my cube is found at its center. I would want to drop it to the world origin at the very center of the world, maybe to do some modular work. One quick way to do this is to use left shift, hit S, and we have at the bottom left cursor to world origin. Let's select this option. My cursor just moved to the world origin. Now it's just a matter of taking this and bringing it right here. How can I do this? There's more options in Blender. I need to select my cube, make sure this is selected. Click on object. We have set origin and several options. The third one being origin to 3D cursor. And one of the beauty of the 3D cursor is that you can use it as a reference point to perform operations on a mesh. By example, let's say that I would like this mesh to rotate from here. I could turn on snapping and vertex, then place my 3D cursor here. Do what we did before. I'm going to set the origin to the 3D cursor, and I can move this one out. And you'll notice naturally, if I try to rotate, I'll rotate from there. But sometimes you don't want to do this. All you want to do is move the 3D cursor in that corner. And I want to keep my origin point where it is right now, untouched. And I just want to move this rotate action here. How can I do this? Well, there's a beautiful option here. Transform pivot point. Instead of using the individual origins, I can change it to 3D cursor. And now I can move from this point, which is very nice. In this next chapter, we'll take a quick look at the scene collection in Blender. This is basically where things are organized, where we place our objects and how we can interact with them, not in the viewport, but really in the item list. We're now going to explore scene collection in Blender. Before we begin, make sure that you're currently in the Layout tab and that we are looking at the right side of the screen, where you will find Scene Collection and Collection. Collection should be there by default. We're going to get rid of it. Either hit delete on your keyboard or right click on it and select delete. Now the scene collection is your scene manager in the entire scene. It cannot be deleted as it sits at the root of the project. To create a new collection, which is just a group of objects, we're going to right click, select new collection. We are going to do it a second time. Right click, new collection. To rename collection 1 to something else, I can double click on collection 1, and in this case I will name it cubes. Collection 2, to rename it, instead of double clicking, I will use F2, which is standard for any Windows apps or File Explorer. This is going to become spheres. In order for me to add cubes to cubes, I need to select the collection that I want, and then I need to go to add mesh cube, and I will do it a second time. There we go. Same thing for spheres. I select spheres and I can add icospheres. I'll do it again. There we go. Notice for every item in my scene, it's true for collection, it's true for items. I have an eye icon. I can use this to hide or unhide my object. I can click and drag to do it on multiple objects. If I want to hide the entire collection, I can go to the collection and do it on it instead. That's very cool. If I want to delete an object, I can just select the object that I want and delete, or right click, delete. And if I want to delete an entire collection, it gets tricky. If I want to delete cubes, I need to select all items in there plus the collection cubes itself and hit delete on the keyboard. Or I can right click and do delete, it works as well. However, there's a faster way to do it. It would be to just select cubes, right click, delete hierarchy. Notice here what would happen if I delete cubes directly. Well, the objects cube and cube 001 are going to fall back to the root of the project, like this. Now cube and cube 001 are part of scene collection. They're at the root. I want to show you something very important here as well. Let's say I'm in cube, but I would like to add to cubes another collection within cube. I can right click on cubes and click new. It's going to add to my project another collection of objects. Let's say cylinders. See? And within cubes, I could even add another one and add more objects to it. So this is great. So you can nest groups of objects inside other groups of objects. In Blender, the word is collection. And while we are here, we need to talk about an important concept in Blender regarding how Blender works and how it interacts with the objects. Notice in my screen, I have two objects. Let me select one of those. Let's start with the icosphere. You will notice there's the origin point there in orange. There's also the orange highlight, and in the item list you see the square around the object. That means this item is fully selected. If I hit G on the keyboard, I can move it. Now I'm going to click in the emptiness of the viewport to unselect the object. If I hit G, it doesn't work. So it looks like it's truly unselected, but is it? Notice in the item list, the square is still there, which is strange. The origin is still there. Also, if I go here, I select this drop-down menu. If, let's say, I select edit mode, in theory, you might think it's going to not do anything, but if I do, it's going to activate the edit mode for the last selected object. So, This is an important concept to understand that Blender is able to remember the last selected object in the scene, on top of having also an active object. This is important for Python scripting because there might be moments where you will need to interact with the last selected object in the scene. In this next chapter, things are going to be a bit more relaxed. We're going to simply explore the viewport settings of Blender to turn certain things on and off, either to obtain more information or to enhance our workflows. One of the most underrated features in Blender is actually the tooltips. Right here, Edit, Preferences, Interface, Display, and Tooltips. We have User Tooltips and Python Tooltips. The first one means wherever I put my mouse cursor is going to prompt a window and I'm going to get a description of what this is about. Great. Python Tooltips means wherever I put my cursor is going to show a description, but it's also going to give me the class and function that I can write with Python scripting to perform this operation. That means wherever I put my cursor allows me to learn how to script with Blender. This is fantastic. I can build my own tools. When we do 3D modeling, sometimes it's just nice to clean up the viewport and get rid of the noise. One way to do this is you go to Viewport Overlays, you turn off Floor, Axis X, Y, Z, turn off 3D Cursor, and Origins. Then you have a clean slate. If you want to turn on the wireframe, it's under Geometry, you check this on, and you can adjust the opacity to your liking. If you are working on a game, you're probably working on a tight budget, so you can turn on Statistics to get the vertices, edges, faces, triangles count. Very cool. When we work with 3D, when we do 3D modeling or 3D sculpting, you'll notice the geometry is often difficult to read. We can, in Blender, open the viewport shading settings and modify certain things to make certain areas much easier to read. By default, the lighting is set to Studio. We can switch to Madcap. This is similar to ZBrush. And if you want to get rid of the color variation, you can choose Flat. Also, at the bottom, we have Cavity. Check this on. You have 3 types, world, screen, and both. Let's choose both. We have both world space and screen space. And let's modify the values of the ridges and the valleys. This one is not very relevant. This one adds a bit of shadows. This one is going to highlight edges. And this one, cavities. So, really cool. Also, you could turn on or off the specular lighting. And you can turn X-ray on to see through your object. And you can modify the slider to your liking. When we do 3D modeling, we have to deal with polygons. So we need to deal with faces that have 2 sides. You have the front face and the back face. The front face is also your normal. It points into a certain direction. And let me demonstrate this to you. My cube is selected. And I'm going to switch to edit mode. And right here now I have a new menu, Mesh Edit Mode Overlays. And at the bottom we have normals. The third option, display normals. I will activate it and notice the little line here. Now all my faces are showing a line. This line is just telling me that what I'm looking at is actually a front face. And if I look around the cube, all those are front faces. They're pointing outward. I could select all of them, click on Mesh, Normals, and flip them. Instead of pointing outward, they will point inward. And if I delete this, you'll notice they are all pointing inward now. Now, there's a very nice option in most 3D software that is named Backface culling. It's located right here. Top of the screen, you have viewport shading. Under options, we have backface culling. Dangerously enough, in Blender by default it is off, but we're going to turn it on. See, now backface culling, what it does is that if you're looking at a backface, you're going to be able to see through it. If you look at the front face,
Well, it's solid. Why is this important? Well, if backface culling is off and you are modeling your 3D object, you're not going to know if what you're looking at is a back face or a front face. So you'll keep modeling without knowing, and you're going to export this to your game engine, and all of a sudden in your game engine, you will realize that some parts are invisible. It's not that they're invisible, that you can see through them, but that's because you model without backface culling on. So this is why backface culling is super important in Blender to turn on, to make sure that you have full control over your front faces and your back faces. Hey, congratulations, this is now the end of module 1. I hope that you had a good time, that you learned a few things along the way, and that more importantly, I helped you save a tremendous amount of time, because I know Blender is not necessarily easy to jump into or learn, especially if you're coming from another app or you're absolutely brand new to 3D. Module 2 is being worked on, should be released later this year. So a lot of fun is coming, and I wish you a good day.